He's homeless. Be my wife now? The millionaire asked the poor young woman. Ethan Miller never imagined his life would change because of a plate of discarded food. It was 7 a.m. when he left the Regal Hotel in downtown Los Angeles after an all-night business meeting. At 35, Ethan ran one of the biggest construction firms in the country, a legacy from his late father. His routine was always the same: work, more work, and then crashing at a nearby high-end hotel. Walking down Figueroa Street, he noticed a young woman hunched by a trash can. She wore simple, somewhat dirty clothes and held a plate of leftovers someone had tossed out. Her brown hair was tied back in a messy ponytail. Even from a distance, Ethan saw her hesitation before eating. Something about that moment deeply unsettled him. "Excuse me," Ethan said, walking up to her. The young woman looked up, startled. Her green eyes widened at the sight of the well-dressed man in a dark suit and expensive shoes. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," she said, her voice low but firm. "I know," Ethan replied. "What's your name?" Lorena Carter." Ethan took a better look at her. Lorena was 33, though the weariness in her eyes made her look younger. There was a dignity about her that didn't fit her circumstances. She didn't look like someone born on the street. "Are you hungry?" Ethan asked. "Why do you care?" Lorena shot back, wary. "Because there's a diner on the corner, the Angel's Cafe. They serve a great breakfast." Lorena looked at Ethan with suspicion. In the 2 years she'd been living rough in LA, she'd learned that rich men like him always wanted something in return. "I don't need your charity," she said, standing up. "It's not charity," Ethan countered. "It's a conversation. An hour of my morning for an hour of yours." Something in Ethan's voice didn't sound like pity. Lorena noticed it. After a beat of hesitation, she nodded. The Angel's Cafe was a small, cozy place with wooden tables and the smell of fresh coffee. Ethan ordered 2 lattes and egg and bacon burritos for them both. Lorena ate slowly, as if every bite was precious. "How did you end up here?" Ethan asked, genuinely curious. "None of your business," Lorena replied, without aggression but firmly. "You're right, I apologize." A few minutes of silence passed. Ethan discreetly watched Lorena. She chewed carefully, kept her back straight, and wiped her mouth with her napkin after every bite. Her manners weren't those of someone who had always been homeless. "Why did you do this?" Lorena suddenly asked. "Do what? Bring you here? Or offer you breakfast?" Ethan thought a moment before answering. "Because when I saw you hesitating before eating that food, I recognized something in you. Pride." The word caught Lorena off guard. She stopped eating and stared at Ethan. "Most people in your situation wouldn't hesitate, but you did. That told me you haven't always been where you are now." Lorena felt her eyes well up, but she controlled the tears. "So what? How does that change anything?" "Maybe nothing," Ethan replied. "Or maybe everything." Ethan paid the bill and stood to leave. Before walking out, he turned back to Lorena. "I'll be here every morning at 7:30. If you want to come tomorrow, breakfast is on me again." "Why would you do that?" Ethan smiled for the first time since they met. "Because I also know what it's like to have pride, and sometimes too much pride can be our undoing." He left the cafe, leaving Lorena alone with her thoughts. That night, sleeping in a makeshift shelter under a freeway overpass, Lorena was surprised to find herself thinking about the encounter. Ethan Miller was different from the rich men she'd met. There was a sadness in his eyes that she recognized because she saw the same sadness in the mirror every morning. Maybe she would go back to the Angel's Cafe tomorrow. Just maybe. Lorena arrived at the Angel's Cafe at 8:20 a.m., a half hour after Ethan's suggested time. She hoped he would be gone, but when she pushed open the glass door, she saw him sitting at the same table, absently fiddling with a coffee cup. "You came," Ethan said with a quiet smile. "I'm still deciding if it was a good idea," Lorena replied, taking the seat across from him. Ethan called the waiter and ordered the same breakfast. This time, Lorena didn't eat so quickly. She watched Ethan as he sipped his coffee and reviewed papers from a leather briefcase. "What do you do?" Lorena asked. "Construction. I run a little company." Ethan chuckled. "Just kidding. We build office towers, shopping centers, some public works." Lorena nodded. She had figured Ethan was loaded, based on his clothes and how easily he paid for breakfast without checking the price. "And you?" Ethan asked. Before you got to where you are now." Lorena was silent for a long time. Ethan thought she wouldn't answer, But then she began to speak softly. I was an accountant. I worked for an import company here in the city. I had a small but decent apartment, a used car, a normal life. What happened? My boss discovered someone was siphoning off a huge amount of money from the company. The evidence pointed to me. Ethan leaned forward in his chair. But you didn't do it, did you? No, Lorena said, meeting his eyes. I would never steal from anyone, but the proof was there. My signature on documents I'd never seen, transfers made from my computer while I was on vacation. Someone planned it very well. Didn't you try to defend yourself? Of course, but who was going to believe a simple accountant against such clear evidence? I was fired, reported to the police, prosecuted. I lost my apartment, the car. I couldn't get a job anywhere. No one wanted to hire a woman accused of theft. Ethan listened in silence, seeing the pain in Lorena's eyes. And your family? My mom died when I was 15. My dad, well, he never believed me. Said I was always too ambitious, that I probably did steal. He stopped speaking to me. That's terrible. Don't pity me. I learned to live with it. It's been a tough 2 years, but I learned. Ethan finished his coffee and was thoughtful for a few minutes. Do you know who the real thief was? Lorena hesitated. I have a suspicion, but I could never prove anything. What's your suspicion? My ex-boyfriend, Raymond. He also worked at the company, in IT. He had access to all the computers, knew my schedule, my passwords. We broke up 3 months before the theft was discovered. Why did you break up? Because I found out he was married, 3 years together, and he never told me he had a wife and 2 kids in San Diego. Ethan shook his head, angered by the story. And where is this Raymond now? I have no idea. When the scandal broke, he requested a transfer to another city. I never heard from him again. Silence fell between them for a few minutes. Ethan watched Lorena, noting how she maintained her dignity, even recounting the worst period of her life. There was strength in this woman, a strength he admired. May I ask you an indiscreet question? Ethan asked. Go for it. Why didn't you try to start over in another city? America is huge. You could have started fresh somewhere else. Lorena smiled sadly. Have you ever tried to get a job without documents, without references, without a fixed address? It's not as easy as it sounds. Ethan realized how naive his question sounded. He had always lived in a world where doors opened easily, where his reputation and money solved almost every problem. You're right, I'm sorry. Don't apologize. You just don't know what it's like to live on the other side. Ethan paid the bill, and they walked out of the cafe together. On the sidewalk, Lorena turned to him. Why are you doing this, Ethan? Really? Ethan looked at her for a long time before answering. Because I've also made mistakes that changed other people's lives. And maybe helping you is a way to make up for what I can no longer fix. What mistakes? But Ethan was already walking away. See you tomorrow, he called out without turning around. Lorena stood on the sidewalk, watching Ethan walk down Figueroa Street. There were mysteries in this man, secrets she was beginning to want to decipher. And for the first time in 2 years, she felt like there might be a light at the end of her tunnel. On the third day, Ethan arrived at the Angels Cafe with a folder full of papers and a more serious air than usual. Lorena was already waiting, this time right on time, at 7:30. You look different today, Lorena observed as Ethan sat down. I spent the night looking into you, Ethan said, putting the folder on the table. Lorena tensed. What do you mean? I found records of your case, newspaper articles, court proceedings, everything. I also found some details about the company you worked for, and Ethan opened the folder and showed Lorena some documents. The company went bankrupt 6 months after your case. The owner fled to South America with a good amount of money, much more than the $15,000 you supposedly stole. Lorena took one of the papers and quickly read it. I didn't know that. There's more. Your ex-boyfriend, Raymond Davies, opened a consulting firm in Phoenix, Arizona, right after he left LA, a firm that started with a hefty initial capital. Lorena's eyes filled with angry tears. He destroyed me. He ruined my life to cover his own theft. It looks that way. Ethan closed the folder and leaned forward. Lorena, I want to make you a proposition. What kind of proposition? Ethan took a deep breath before continuing. Marry me. Lorena nearly spilled her coffee cup. What did you say? Marry me, a marriage of convenience, for 2 years, of course. Are you crazy? Let me explain, Ethan said, raising his hands. I need a wife to resolve some legal issues with my company related to the inheritance my dad left me. And you need a new identity, a fresh start. Lorena stared at him as if he were speaking a foreign language. A new identity? As my wife, you would have access to the best lawyers in the country. We could reopen your case, prove your innocence, clear your name. Plus, you'd have a place to live, decent clothes, and after 2 years, a divorce with enough money to start over wherever you want. And what do you get out of it? Ethan hesitated for a moment. My dad left my company with some strange clauses in the will. To maintain total control, I need to be married before my next birthday. That gives me 4 months. Why don't you marry someone from your social circle? Because all the women I know want a real marriage. Kids, family, all that traditional life. I can't offer that. Why can't you? Ethan looked away. Because I had that once, and I destroyed it all. Lorena noticed the pain in Ethan's voice. She was beginning to understand that this man carried scars as deep as her own. Let me think about it, Lorena said. How long do you need? A few days? Ethan nodded and placed a card on the table. This is my personal number. Call me when you decide. They said goodbye strangely that morning. Ethan with the anxiety of someone who made a risky gamble, and Lorena with the confusion of someone who received an opportunity that seemed too good to be true. For the next 3 days, Lorena couldn't think of anything else. She walked the streets of downtown, turning Ethan's proposal over in her mind. It was a chance to start over, clear her name, regain her dignity, but it was also risky. She barely knew Ethan, didn't know his true intentions. And what if it was a trap? What if he was like Raymond, someone capable of destroying her life for his own gain? On the third night, sleeping in the shelter under the bridge, Lorena made her decision. She had nothing left to lose. Her life had already been destroyed once. If Ethan wanted to trick her, at least she'd have a few months of guaranteed food and a place to sleep. The next day, she called Ethan. I accept, Lorena said straightforwardly. Are you sure? Sure, but with a few conditions. What are they? First, I want everything in writing, a clear contract with all the terms. Second, I want to meet your lawyers before signing anything. Third, I want you to tell me the truth about why you're doing this. Ethan was silent for a few seconds. Okay, can you come to my office tomorrow at 2 p.m.? I'll text you the address. I can. Lorena, you won't regret this, I promise. After hanging up, Lorena looked up at the sky through the bridge girders. For some reason she couldn't explain. She felt her life was about to change completely, and for the first time in 2 years, she had hope that it would be for the better. Ethan's office was on the 15th floor of a modern skyscraper in Beverly Hills, one of LA's most exclusive neighborhoods. When Lorena arrived at the reception desk in the best clothes she could find in the shelter, she felt completely out of place. The well-groomed receptionist looked her up and down with suspicion. How can I help you? I have an appointment with Ethan Miller at 2 o'clock. Your name? Lorena Carter. The receptionist checked the schedule and looked surprised. One moment, please. She picked up the phone and whispered something Lorena couldn't hear. After a few minutes, an elevator opened and Ethan stepped out in a dark blue suit. Lorena, you came, Ethan said, smiling. I said I would. Ethan led her to his office, which was enormous, with glass walls offering a view of the entire city below. Two people were waiting, a gray-haired man in his 50s and an elegant woman in her 40s. Lorena, this is Dr. Henry Adams and Dr. Sarah Vega, my lawyers, Ethan said. Lorena greeted them, trying to hide her nerves. Please, have a seat, Dr. Adams said, gesturing to a leather armchair. The next 40 minutes were the most surreal of Lorena's life. The lawyers meticulously explained the terms of the marital contract they had prepared. The marriage will last 2 years, Dr. Vega explained. During that time, you will live at Mr. Miller's residence, have all your basic needs covered, and a specialized lawyer will work to clear your name in the criminal case. And after the 2 years, Lorena asked, the divorce will be automatic, with neither party contesting it, Dr. Adams replied. You will receive a sum of $200,000 to start anew, in addition to having your name completely cleared. Lorena turned to Ethan. And what do you gain from this, besides the inheritance thing? Ethan exchanged a glance with his lawyers before answering. You'll find out little by little, but I assure you there's nothing that could harm you. I don't like mysteries, Ethan. I know, but trust me, please. Dr. Adams opened a folder and showed Lorena several documents. These are the papers from your criminal case. We gained access through some contacts at the courthouse. With your authorization, we can start working on reopening the case this week. Lorena took the papers and quickly read some excerpts. It was painful to see it all documented, all the accusations against her officially recorded. How long will it take to clear my name? With the evidence Mr. Miller found about your ex-boyfriend and the true company owner, we estimate between 6 months and a year, Dr. Vega replied. And what if we can't prove my innocence? We will, Ethan said with conviction. I guarantee it. Lorena looked at everyone in the room. There was something unreal about the moment, as if she were living someone else's life. I need guarantees that I can leave this agreement at any time if I feel threatened or uncomfortable, she said. Of course, Dr. Adams replied. We'll include a unilateral termination clause with no penalties for you. And where would I live? In my house, Ethan said. It's big. You'd have your own room and bathroom. Complete privacy. And will people know it's a marriage of convenience? To the world, we will be a normal couple. It's important to maintain appearances for the plan to work. Lorena took a deep breath. It was a lot of information to process all at once. Can I read the entire contract before signing? Certainly, Dr. Vega said, handing her a copy. Take it home and call me if you have any questions. One last question, Ethan, Lorena said, looking him directly in the eyes. Why me? Of all the women you could have chosen, why did you pick a homeless woman with legal problems? Ethan was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice sounded different, more vulnerable. Because you are the only person I know who understands what it's like to lose everything due to someone else's mistakes. And because I believe you deserve a second chance. And you, do you deserve a second chance too? I don't know, Ethan replied, looking away. But maybe by helping you, I can find out. Lorena left the office with the contract in her purse and 1,000 thoughts in her head. While waiting for the elevator, she saw her reflection in the wall mirror. For the first time in 2 years, she saw something different in her eyes. It wasn't happiness yet, but it was hope. That night in the shelter, she read every word of the contract 3 times. Everything seemed fair, even generous, but there was something about Ethan she still couldn't decipher. He carried a weight, a guilt he hadn't shared with her. Still, the next morning, Lorena called Dr. Vega. I'm going to sign, she said. When do we start? The wedding was on a Tuesday morning at the city clerk's office in Santa Monica. It was a simple ceremony with only Dr. Adams and Dr. Vega as witnesses. Lorena wore a light blue dress Ethan had bought her, and he wore a more casual gray suit than his work clothes. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the justice of the peace said without any emotion. Ethan and Lorena shook hands. No kiss, no hug. It was a business deal being sealed, not a union of love. Ethan's house was in Bel Air, a wealthy area on the west side of the city. It was a modern 2-story house with a front lawn and a pool in the back. When Lorena entered for the first time, she was intimidated by the size and elegance of the place. Your room is on the 2nd floor, Ethan said, carrying the small duffel bag with all of Lorena's possessions. Mine is downstairs. We have total privacy from each other. Lorena's room was bigger than the entire apartment she had lived in before losing everything. It had a queen-size bed, a huge walk-in closet, a private bathroom with a tub, and a window overlooking the garden. It's beautiful, Lorena said, genuinely impressed. The housekeeper comes 3 times a week. Mrs. Jenkins is discreet and reliable. She knows the situation and won't ask awkward questions. And for food, there's a credit card in your name on the dresser. Use it for whatever you need, groceries, clothes, anything. Lorena took the card and examined it. It had her new name, Lorena Carter Miller. It's going to take time to get used to this. Ethan smiled. I imagine. They were quiet for a moment, both aware of the strangeness of the situation. They were 2 virtual strangers, now living under the same roof. Ethan, can I ask you a question? Of course. The real reason you need to be married, I don't think it's just about the inheritance. Ethan sighed and sat on the chair in the room. My dad put a clause in the will that I would only fully inherit the company if I proved I was capable of maintaining long-term commitments. He thought I was too irresponsible. And maybe he was right. I was married before Lorena to an incredible woman named Sophia. We had a daughter, Isabella. Lorena felt a knot in her chest hearing the pain in Ethan's voice. What happened to them? It was me. I was a workaholic. I was never home. I always put the company before my family. Sophia put up with it for 5 years, but then she gave up. She took Isabella and moved to New York City. How long ago? 3 years. Isabella is 8 now, and I see her maybe twice a year over video chat. Lorena finally understood the sadness she'd seen in Ethan's eyes from the first day. That's why you don't want a real marriage. Do you still love your ex-wife? I don't know if I still love her, Ethan replied, but I know I disappointed her in a way that can't be fixed, and I know I'm capable of doing the same thing to any other woman who enters my life. So this marriage to me is a way to keep the company without risking hurting anyone else? It's a way to be honest about who I am, Ethan said. You know exactly what to expect from me. No romantic expectations, no risk of me destroying someone else's dreams. Lorena sat on the bed and looked at Ethan. Did you ever try to change? Work less? Be more present? I tried, but it's stronger than me. It's like I only know how to exist when I'm solving problems, closing deals, building things. When I stop, I feel lost. Maybe it's time to learn to exist in other ways. Ethan smiled sadly. Maybe, but 3 years of therapy haven't managed to teach me that. That first night in Ethan's house, it took Lorena hours to fall asleep in the soft bed. She was used to the hard ground of the shelter, the street noises, the constant uncertainty. Here, in the silence of the elegant room, she felt almost out of place. But when she finally drifted off, for the first time in 2 years, Lorena slept without worrying about where she would get food the next day. The next morning, Ethan knocked on her door at 7:00. Lorena, do you want to have breakfast with me before I go to work? Sure. They ate breakfast in the kitchen, an open-plan kitchen with a marble counter and modern appliances. Ethan made scrambled eggs and coffee, and they ate in comfortable silence. What are you going to do today? Ethan asked. I don't know. It's been so long since I've had a day without worrying about surviving. How about shopping, getting some clothes, getting to know the neighborhood? You can do that. I can. Lorena, you are my wife now, at least on paper. You can do whatever you want. After Ethan left for work, Lorena was alone in the enormous house. She explored all the rooms, admired the elegant but impersonal decor, and realized that the house was beautiful but soulless. It was the house of a man who lived to work, not to live. And for the first time since she accepted Ethan's proposal, Lorena wondered if she could help him as much as he was helping her. 6 months after the wedding, Lorena's life had completely changed, but not in the way she expected. It wasn't just having a roof over her head or beautiful clothes in the closet. Something deeper was happening to both her and Ethan. The first change came when Dr. Adams called one Thursday morning with news about the case. Lorena, we have a fantastic news, the lawyer said excitedly. We managed to locate Raymond Davies in Phoenix, and he decided to cooperate. Cooperate? How? It seems he was also a victim of the real culprit. The company owner, Edward Vasconcelos, blackmailed him into planting the evidence against you. Raymond has documents that prove everything. Lorena felt her legs weaken. After 2.5 years, there would finally be justice. And now? Now it's a matter of weeks for the case to be dismissed and your criminal record to be clean. Edward is already in jail in Miami for other crimes. He can no longer harm you. When Ethan came home that night, Lorena was waiting for him in the living room with a bottle of wine and 2 glasses. Celebrating something? Ethan asked, loosening his tie. My innocence is proven, officially. Ethan smiled, the first genuinely happy smile Lorena had seen on him in months. Congratulations, Lorena. You deserve it. They toasted and drank wine sitting on the living room sofa. It was the first time they had talked so relaxed since they got married. You know what's strange? Lorena said after the second glass of wine. What? I thought I would feel completely happy when this moment came, but I'm actually a little scared. Why? Because now I have no more excuses. I can really start my life, and that's scarier than it seems. Ethan watched her for a few seconds. You know you don't have to leave yet, right? Our deal is for 2 years. I know, but Ethan, I need to tell you something. What? Lorena took a deep breath before continuing. These 6 months living here made me realize something about you. You're not the person you think you are. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? You see yourself as a selfish, workaholic man, incapable of maintaining relationships. But I see a man who went out of his way to help a complete honest stranger, who pays for therapy for the housekeeper who lost her husband, who calls Isabella every night at 9 Moss, even if he's at the office late. I call Isabella because it's my obligation. No, Ethan, you call because you love her, and you work so much because you're afraid to stop and face that you still miss your family. Ethan got up from the couch, uncomfortable with the conversation. You don't know me as well as you think. Maybe not, but I know enough to realize that you're punishing yourself for mistakes that might not be entirely yours. Of course they are mine. I chose work instead of being with them. I chose the company over family. And did Sophia ever try to help you find a balance? Did she ever talk to you about it before deciding to leave? Ethan was silent. It was a question he had never asked himself. It's not that simple, Lorena. Maybe it's simpler than you think. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Lorena's words echoed in his head. For the first time in 3 years, he wondered if Sophia had really tried to save them before giving up. The next morning, Ethan did something he hadn't done in months. He arrived at the office 2 hours late and canceled 3 meetings. Mr. Miller, is everything all right? His worried secretary asked. Everything's fine, Mary. I just need to sort out some personal things. Ethan spent the whole day trying to muster the courage to make a call. Finally, at 4 p.m., he dialed Sophia's number in New York. Ethan? The familiar voice said on the other end of the line. Did something happen to Isabella? No, Isabella is fine. I wanted to talk to you. Talk about what? Us, what happened? Sophia was silent for a few seconds. Ethan, it's been 3 years. I don't see the point in stirring up old wounds. I know, but I need to truly apologize and I need to ask you something. What? Did you try to warn me before you decided to leave? Did you try to tell me I was working too much, neglecting you both? Sophia sighed deeply. Ethan, I spent 2 years asking you to be home more, to prioritize family. I suggested counseling twice. Once, I even packed my bags and went to my mom's house for a week, hoping you'd realize what you were losing. And I never realized. You always promised you would change, that next week things would be different, but they never were. Ethan felt a knot in his chest. Sophia, I'm so sorry. I truly am sorry. I know you are, Ethan, but it wasn't enough back then, and it's not now. I know, I just wanted you to know that I finally understood. I finally got it. After hanging up, Ethan was alone in his office, crying for the first time in 3 years. They weren't tears of self-pity, but of understanding. He had lost his family not because he was a monster, but because he was a man who didn't know how to balance love and ambition. When he arrived home that night, Lorena was cooking. It was something she had started doing spontaneously, and Ethan found he loved coming home to the kitchen, filled with the aroma of home-cooked food. How was your day? Lorena asked, not turning from the stove. I called Sophia. Lorena stopped stirring and turned to him. And how did it go? Painful but necessary. They ate dinner in silence, but it was a comfortable silence. After detrusted, Ethan looked at Lorena. Can I ask you a question? Sure. What are you going to do now that you can start your life over? Lorena smiled. I don't know yet, but for the first time in years, I'm excited to find out. Are you going to miss this? This house, this life? I'm going to miss some things. Which ones? I'm going to miss having someone to cook for. I'm going to miss our morning talks. And I'm going to miss helping you become a better person. Ethan felt something shift in his chest, a sensation he hadn't felt in a long time. Lorena, what if I asked you to stay? Not because of the contract, but because I want you to stay. As my wife for real, as my true partner, as someone who knows me better than I know myself. Lorena looked at him for a long time before answering. Ethan, are you sure you're ready for that? To truly share your life with someone? I don't know, but I want to try with you. That night, for the first time in 6 months, Ethan and Lorena stayed up late talking in the living room, not as two people fulfilling a contract, but as two human beings who had found in the other the possibility of healing and starting over. 6 months later, as the original contract period was about to end, Ethan and Lorena decided to renew their vows. This time, it wasn't a business deal. It was a simple ceremony in the garden of the house, with Isabella participating via video chat from New York and Dr. Adams and Dr. Vega as witnesses again. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Lorena asked on the morning of the ceremony. "I've never been so sure of anything in my life," Ethan replied. And when they kissed after the vows, it was the first real kiss they had shared. A kiss that sealed not just a marriage, but a partnership between two people who had learned that sometimes, to find true love, you first have to learn to forgive yourself. If you enjoyed the story of Ethan and Lorena, make sure to subscribe to Rich Hearts Revealed for more stories of second chances.